I stood just beyond the doorway of the living room in our old ranch-style house in Fort Collins, Colorado, holding my breath until it burned. The kids, Ethan, Olivia, and Tyler, were gathered around the coffee table, voices low but sharp, like knives being sharpened on stone. They didn't know I was there. They never did anymore. "She's costing us a fortune in care," Ethan muttered, rubbing his temples the way he did when he was closing a deal. "Home health aides, medications, that big house we can't even sell yet because she won't sign the papers." Olivia sighed, the sound heavy with exhaustion. "She's had a good life, hasn't she? 82 years. We've done our part." Tyler laughed, short, bitter. "Yeah. Well, part's over. Time to move her somewhere cheaper. She's too expensive to keep here. Too expensive." The words landed like a slap I'd been expecting for years, but still felt in my bones. I pressed my palm to the wall to steady myself. My children, the ones I had raised alone after their father died in a car accident on I-25, were discussing me like a line item on a budget sheet. I didn't cry. I didn't storm in. I simply turned, walked back to my bedroom, and closed the door with the softest click. Then I sat on the edge of the quilt I'd sewn when Ethan was still in diapers and let the silence settle over me like snow. I wasn't always this gray-haired woman with aching hips and hands that trembled when I poured coffee. Once I was Ellie Hayes, 32 and widowed, working double shifts at the diner on College Avenue and cleaning offices at night so my kids could have new shoes, braces, college funds. I sold my wedding ring to pay for Ethan's law school tuition. I remortgaged the house so Olivia could start her bakery. I took out loans to bail Tyler out of gambling debts when he was 25. I never told him the cost. I just smiled and said, "We'll figure it out." Now, they were figuring it out without me. That night I called Harlan, my late husband's old fishing buddy who'd become my attorney. His voice was warm, steady, the way it always was. "Ellie, you sure about this?" he asked after I explained the new will. "I've never been sure," I said. "I'm not doing this out of spite. I'm doing it because I deserve to be seen as a person, not a problem." We met the next week in his office overlooking the Cache La Poudre River. I signed the documents, the house, the savings, the small cabin up near Grand Lake. Everything transferred to my granddaughter Mia.
Mia.
Olivia's daughter. The only one who still called just to ask how my day was going. The only one who brought me wildflowers from her garden instead of invoices. I didn't tell a soul. A month later, I let them convince me to move into the assisted living facility in Loveland they'd chosen. It was clean, modern, with wide windows and staff who smiled too brightly. They called it independent living with support. I called it what it was, a place to wait. I arrived with one suitcase and the photo album I'd kept since the kids were small. Ethan carried the bag inside, kissed my cheek, and left before the ink on the admission papers was dry. Olivia hugged me quickly and promised to visit soon. Tyler didn't even come. The first week I kept my head down. I ate the bland food, took the pills they handed me, let them think I was fading. But I watched. I noticed the night nurse who scrolled her phone instead of checking rooms. I saw the resident 2 doors down fall in the hallway and lie there for 8 minutes before anyone helped him up. I wrote it all down in a notebook I kept hidden under my mattress. And every Sunday, Mia came. She brought coffee from her favorite roaster in Denver, sat with me on the patio, and talked about her new job, her boyfriend, her dreams. She never once mentioned money. She just held my hand and said, "I love you, Grandma." That was enough to keep me going. The assisted living facility smelled of lemon disinfectant and overcooked vegetables. My room was small, single bed, a dresser, a chair by the window that looked out on a strip of lawn and the distant outline of the Rockies. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was gathering evidence, not surrendering. I played the part they expected. I moved slowly. I asked the same questions twice. I let them pat my shoulder and call me sweetie. The staff stopped seeing me as a person. I became another chart to update.
But Mia saw me.
She came every weekend, sometimes bringing her sketchbook. She'd draw the mountains while we talked. One Sunday, she found the old letter I'd tucked into the lining of my purse years ago, a letter I'd written when Mia was 12. Just in case. She unfolded it carefully, eyes wide. "Grandma, what is this?" I took a breath. "Read it." The letter was short. It told her about the safety deposit box at the First National Bank in Fort Collins. It told her there was a key taped to the back of the page. It told her to trust me. Mia's hands shook as she pulled the key free. "What's inside?" "Go see," I said. She left that afternoon and returned 2 hours later, face pale. We sat in the corner of the common room, away from the television blaring game shows. "There's a new will," she whispered. "Everything, the house, the cabin, the accounts, it's all mine. There's a letter to Mr. Harlan explaining why." I nodded. "I changed it 3 years ago. After your mom and uncle started treating me like a retirement account instead of their mother." Mia's eyes filled. "They don't know. No one does. Not yet." She covered her mouth. "Grandma, why me?" "Because you show up," I said simply. "Because you remember my birthday without a reminder. Because when you look at me, you see Ellie, not a burden." She cried then, quietly, and I held her the way I used to hold her mother. When she left, I felt lighter than I had in years. That night I called Harlan from the burner phone he'd given me. "It's time," I said. He didn't argue. "I'll start the process." "You sure about the next step?" "I'm ready." 2 days later, I staged the episode. I clutched my chest during breakfast, gasped, let myself slump. The staff panicked, called an ambulance. They wheeled me out without checking my bracelet properly. At the hospital, I stayed quiet while they ran tests. When the doctor stepped out, Mia was waiting in the hallway with a coat and a plan. We slipped out the side exit and drove north toward Grand Lake. The cabin was exactly as my husband had left it, wood beams, stone fireplace, windows that looked straight onto the water. Mia helped me inside, lit the fire, made tea. I sat on the porch and watched the sun drop behind the mountains, painting the lake gold. For the first time in years, I breathed easy. It took them 4 days to realize I was gone. The facility called the hospital, then the ambulance company, then my children. Ethan arrived first, demanding answers. Olivia showed up in tears. Tyler sent a single text, "Where's Mom?" Harlan handled the rest. Each of them received a letter, crisp, official, delivered by courier. Ethan's read, "Ethan, you once asked me to sign over the house so you could invest in a real estate deal. I said no. You never asked how I was feeling, only what I could give. When I needed you, you sent checks. When I needed your time, you sent excuses. You called me expensive. I've made new arrangements. You won't be part of them." Olivia's was gentler but no less firm. "Olivia, I thought you understood me better than the others. But when they planned to move me out like old furniture, you stayed silent. You chose convenience over compassion. So, I chose differently." Tyler's was the shortest. "Tyler, I bailed you out more times than I can count. I believed in your fresh starts. But when I became inconvenient, you disappeared. You laughed while they called me too expensive. You won't be laughing now. The fallout was swift. Ethan stormed Harlan's office, shouting about manipulation. Olivia left tearful voicemails. Tyler didn't call at all. Then came the will reading. Harlan's conference room was quiet, heavy with polished wood and unspoken words. Ethan arrived in a suit, jaw tight. Olivia clutched a tissue. Tyler slouched in, eyes bloodshot. Mia walked in last.
Come.
Carrying a folder. Harlan read the will without flourish. To my children, nothing. To my granddaughter Mia, Hayes, everything. Ethan exploded. This is insane. She was coerced. Harlan slid the documents across the table. Signed 3 years ago. Notarized.
Witnessed.
She was of sound mind. Olivia whispered. We didn't mean to hurt her. But the damage was done. Mia opened her folder. Photos of the facility. Cracked walls. Expired medication labels. A resident left on the floor. Statements from doctors confirming my competence. Letters, one for each child. Ethan left first, slamming the door. Olivia cried. Tyler stared at the floor. After they were gone, Harlan turned to Mia. She did this to protect herself. And to thank you. Mia looked down. I just loved her. That's why she trusted you, he said. From the cabin, I watched the sun set over the lake and felt something close to peace. I hadn't planned to see them again.
Not really.
But Mia called one evening. Voice soft. They're asking questions. They're scared. Maybe they need to hear it from you. I thought about it all night. Revenge had never been the goal. Clarity had. So I agreed. Mia rented a small community hall near the lake. Neutral ground. I waited behind a curtain while they arrived. Ethan looked older. Lines etched deep around his eyes. Olivia's hands shook. Tyler wouldn't meet anyone's gaze. Mia stepped forward. There's someone who wants to speak with you. The curtain opened. I stepped out.
Cane tapping softly.
Hello, children. Ethan's face went white. Mom, Olivia gasped. Tyler froze. I looked at each of them. I heard everything that night in the living room. I heard you call me a burden. Too expensive.
I didn't confront you then.
I watched instead. I wanted to see who you'd become when you thought I couldn't fight back. Olivia started crying.
Mom.
We were wrong. We were stressed. Scared. You were silent, I said gently. Silence hurts too. I turned to Ethan. You worked hard. You succeeded. But you forgot where you came from. You forgot the nights I worked so you could study. To Tyler, I gave you chance after chance. When I needed one, you were gone. I took a breath. I rewrote the will because I couldn't reward neglect. But I didn't do it to punish you. I did it to protect what little I have left. And to give everything to the one person who remembered I was still here.
Mia stood busy de me. Quiet.
I'm not coming back, I said. I'm living where I'm loved. But I'm not closing the door completely. If you want to rebuild something real, not out of guilt, but out of love, you know where to find me. I turned and walked out. Outside. The air was crisp, the lake glittering. Mia caught up, slipped her hand in mine. You okay? She asked. I smiled. Better than I've been in years. Months passed. The cabin became home. Mia visited often. Sometimes stayed weeks. We gardened, read by the fire, talked about everything and nothing. Ethan sent a letter first. No excuses. Just an apology. He asked if he could visit. I said yes. He arrived one Saturday. Hands in pockets. Eyes red. We sat on the porch.
He cried.
I listened. We didn't fix everything, but we started. Olivia came next, bringing photographs of her bakery, of her life. She hugged me longer than she had in years.
I'm sorry.
Mom, she whispered. I forgot how to be your daughter. Tyler was last. He showed up unshaven, nervous. We walked the lakeshore. He told me about rehab, about starting over. I told him I was proud of him for trying. They didn't get the inheritance back. Mia kept it because she'd earned it with kindness. But they gained something better. Time. Visits. Phone calls. Real conversations. I didn't forgive them overnight. Forgiveness is a road, not a destination. But I walked it with them. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, I sat with Mia on the porch. She leaned her head on my shoulder. You taught them something important, she said. I smiled.
No.
Sweetheart. I taught them the only thing that matters. Family isn't about what you own. It's about who shows up when it counts. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't alone.